It's quite peculiar, isn't it? The way we incessantly chatter about the baby boomers, dissecting their influence and legacy, and then shift our focus to the millennials, analyzing their unique traits and digital native upbringing. We scrutinize Generation Z with an almost scientific fervor, treating them as if they're a brand new, captivating species requiring constant study and explanation. Yet, amidst all this generational discourse, there's a profound silence surrounding an entire cohort, a generation that occupies the crucial middle ground, frequently overlooked, perpetually relegated to the background, and often rendered utterly invisible. We are, of course, speaking of Generation X, those individuals born approximately between the years 1965 and 1980, bridging the tumultuous end of one era and the dawn of another. They are the quiet architects in your office, the dependable older coworkers who stoically carry their burdens without a single complaint, rarely seeking the spotlight. They might be your own parents, exhibiting a perplexing sense of emotional distance, a self-contained nature that often feels difficult to penetrate or fully comprehend. These are the unassuming innovators, the very hands that meticulously crafted the foundations of the internet as we know it. Yet, paradoxically, they rarely feel the urge to broadcast their daily lives or even their breakfast choices across social media platforms. But what remains truly untold, what goes largely unacknowledged, is the intricate tapestry of their psychological makeup. Their inner world is arguably the most profoundly misunderstood of any demographic currently alive. They were, in essence, the very first generation of true latchkey kids, a social phenomenon that swept across the nation on an unprecedented, massive scale. Close your eyes and imagine the scene vividly. It's the year 1978, a typical afternoon in late autumn. In this era, there was no instant connection, no sleek smartphone to call for reassurance, no pervasive Ring cameras to monitor your safe arrival. There was simply no immediate way for anyone to verify your well-being. With a practiced hand, you would let yourself inside the quiet house, the click of the lock echoing the solitude. You would then navigate the kitchen, perhaps make yourself a simple snack, diligently tackle your homework entirely alone, and patiently endure the long wait for adult supervision. A significant study, whose findings were later published in the American Journal of Orthopsychiatry, revealed a startling truth. By the year 1984, an astonishing 7 million children, ranging in age from 5 to 13, were regularly left without adult supervision once school was dismissed. This wasn't just a handful of kids. It represented an entire generation, profoundly internalizing the harsh reality that dependable support wouldn't always be immediately available. The empty house, a silent sentinel, did more than merely foster self-reliance. It indelibly stamped within them the profound understanding that every action carries genuine, undeniable consequences, consequences that simply could not be reasoned away or talked out of. Upon their parents' eventual return, there was an unmistakable clarity, an immediate understanding of exactly where one stood. Parental rules were delivered with an unyielding swiftness and severity. There was no room for lengthy emotional discourse. Nobody truly concerned themselves with how you felt, nor was there any inclination to delve into such subjective sentiments. To deviate even slightly from the established boundaries meant facing immediate retribution, a payment exacted right then and there, without delay or appeal. Psychologically, this stark reality forged what researchers now define as a high-contingency environment, a setting where actions and their resulting outcomes were meticulously and directly interwoven, utterly devoid of any buffer time or mitigating factors. Consequently, the Gen X brain became incredibly adept at predicting consequences in real time, a deeply ingrained foresight explaining why this generation instinctively thinks 3, even 4 steps ahead, often perplexing those from subsequent eras. Gen X grew up witnessing their parents, who preached stability, ultimately dissolve their marriages through the rampant divorce rates of the 70s and 80s.
They observed dedicated individuals pour their lives into companies, only to be coldly handed pink slips during the relentless corporate layoffs of the era. The prevailing wisdom told them, work hard, follow the rules, and success will follow. But these very rules consistently fractured before their eyes. Psychologists may label their outlook as defensive pessimism, yet Gen X simply considers it a deeply ingrained sense of realism, forged through experience.
It's not a true cynicism. Instead, they've painstakingly built an emotional armor, piece by piece, to protect themselves from predictable disappointments.
While outwardly hoping for good outcomes, they inwardly anticipate the rug being pulled, a reflex born from a lifetime of witnessing constant instability. Reflecting on their learned caution, it's no wonder you find the Gen X presence strikingly minimal across today's sprawling digital landscapes of social media. They emerged from an era where the concept of personal privacy wasn't a luxury or a debate, but simply the undisputed norm of daily existence. Picture a childhood mistake, a minor transgression, a clumsy moment. Perhaps only a handful of peers or local adults would ever become aware of it. And truly, that was the extent of it. The incident would fade, confined to hushed whispers and immediate apologies. There were no omnipresent cameras, no smartphones ready to record every misstep, no instant viral dissemination of embarrassing moments. Just the quiet echoes of a shared memory, perhaps in a dimly lit basement rec room or the hushed expanse of a late-night parking lot. The very thought of deliberately broadcasting the intricate tapestry of their lives to an endless, anonymous audience of strangers, that feels profoundly alien. Far from being an exciting opportunity for connection or recognition, this boundless visibility is perceived as an inherent and significant personal risk. This isn't an issue of technological ignorance or an inability to adapt. Rather, it's a foundational lesson learned early in life. A deeply ingrained understanding that a guarded personal sphere, where less is known about you, inherently offers greater safety and security. Fundamentally, Generation X mastered the art of using irony and emotional detachment as an almost impenetrable shield against the unpredictable world. They learned to deflect potential hurt with a quick joke, to maintain a safe emotional distance, and to laugh off adversity before its sting could truly land. It's truly fascinating how, despite their often stoic exterior and learned detachment, Generation X cultivated a uniquely pragmatic and powerful approach to their professional lives. This isn't an ethic they trumpet or parade. You won't find them broadcasting their efforts on social media or seeking public accolades. Instead, their philosophy is simple: quiet competence. They simply roll up their sleeves and get the job done. No fuss, no fanfare. This unpretentious, hands-on work ethic was meticulously forged during their formative years, through early jobs that might now seem almost entirely of another era. From the pre-dawn chill of 5 a.m. paper routes, where crisp newspapers were delivered with precise regularity, to the rhythmic bagging of groceries at the local supermarket. They manned fast food counters, often forced to manually calculate complex change in their heads when the temperamental cash registers inevitably broke down. These weren't strategically chosen opportunities for future resume padding. They were raw, unfiltered introductions to the tangible realities and responsibilities of the adult world. Imagine a 12-year-old shouldering the crucial task of ensuring an entire neighborhood received their daily news, come rain or shine, entirely on their own. They were witnesses to the profound anxieties and devastating consequences of corporate restructuring that often decimated their parents' generation, changing lives overnight. This first-hand experience instilled a deep-seated skepticism towards the traditional concept of unwavering company loyalty, understanding its fragility. However, this distrust didn't translate to apathy. Instead, they cultivated an unyielding, fierce loyalty to their own personal competence and skill set.
They might not be able to prevent a layoff, but they could absolutely ensure they were the most undeniably valuable, indispensable person in any room when difficult decisions were being made.
This creates a fascinating paradox at the very heart of Gen X psychology, a generation fiercely independent, yet also the most quietly, profoundly essential.
The core of Gen X psychology harbors a peculiar, almost contradictory essence. They are without question the most fiercely independent generation, mastering self-reliance from a tender age. Yet, beneath that stoic exterior, they are also the most quietly, effectively collaborative individuals one might encounter. A Gen Xer will almost never vocalize a need for assistance. Their ingrained response is to instinctively tackle any challenge themselves, a habit deeply embedded since childhood, often as young as 8 years old. However, this fierce independence doesn't translate into isolation. On the contrary, if a friend or colleague is genuinely in need, a Gen Xer will appear without fanfare, offering practical, no-nonsense help, devoid of any desire for accolades or public acknowledgement on social media. This profound sense of loyalty and mutual support was forged in the crucibles of their youth, where tight-knit bonds with peers became a necessary lifeline, especially when parental presence was frequently and often unintentionally diminished. Their relationship with established authority is equally intricate and layered. They possess an innate, unshakable respect for true competence and proven ability, valuing genuine skill far above any mere hierarchical title or corporate position. If a leader has demonstrably earned their stripes through expertise and effective action, a Gen Xer will willingly and steadfastly follow their lead. Conversely, if someone occupies a high-ranking position solely by virtue of a fancy job title, lacking true understanding or practical capability, Gen Xers exhibit an absolute, profound intolerance for such inadequacy. Their inherent skepticism towards authority is a direct consequence of witnessing a succession of incompetent figures in positions of power, making disastrous decisions throughout their formative years. The trust of Gen X was deeply eroded by major political scandals and public health mismanagements witnessed during their formative years. Events like the revelations of Watergate, the complexities of Iran-Contra, and the mishandled initial response to the AIDS crisis etched a deep pattern of institutional distrust. This generation faced a relentless barrage of serious economic headwinds, financial storms entirely unlike anything their parents had ever experienced or prepared them for. Many of the youngest Gen Xers graduated college filled with ambition, only to walk directly into the spectacular and devastating burst of the dot-com bubble. Just as their careers matured, the older Gen Xers were cruelly intercepted by the crushing weight of the 2008 global financial crisis. This consistent pattern of economic shocks has left them profoundly traumatized, instilling a deep, unwavering distrust in any promise of long-term stability. As a direct consequence, they are notably more likely to strategically cultivate and maintain multiple, diverse income streams. This isn't driven by innate entrepreneurial spirit, but rather by a hard-won, pragmatic understanding of survival in an unpredictable world. Their experiences have taught them the stark, undeniable truth: nothing, especially financial security, is truly built to last. Such ingrained self-reliance, while a testament to their resilience, often manifests as a subtle yet pervasive anxiety regarding future economic uncertainties. This profound self-reliance, forged in a crucible of instability, gave Gen X an unparalleled capability for crisis management. They became individuals exceptionally skilled at navigating turmoil and solving complex problems on their own terms. However, this extraordinary competence often sprang from a deep, subconscious aversion to showing vulnerability or depending on anyone else. Research, such as that highlighted in the Journal of Adult Development, consistently points to Gen Xers reporting a significantly lower propensity to seek social support during moments of intense personal or professional stress. It's not that they lacked a network of friends or family who could offer assistance or a sympathetic ear.
The hesitation came from an internal perception. Asking for help felt less like collaboration and more like an admission of personal defeat. This same fiercely independent spirit profoundly influenced how they processed and valued information in the pre-internet era. Before instant digital access, knowledge wasn't just a click away. It carried a much heavier, more tangible weight, demanding respect and effort. Gen X spent countless quiet hours in the hushed aisles of public libraries, their fingers meticulously working through the wooden drawers of the card catalog. Their focused search was often for a single, specific volume, a precious book that might contain the solitary, crucial piece of information needed for a project or understanding. This pursuit of knowledge had a real, undeniable cost. It demanded significant physical effort, patience, and a considerable investment of time. Consequently, the information they painstakingly acquired through such diligent effort was not merely learned, it was deeply cherished and valued far more profoundly. Cognitive psychologists explain this phenomenon as deeper encoding, where the very act of struggling to obtain information causes it to be more permanently and intrinsically integrated into one's long-term memory. This hands-on ethos extended to the practical world. Gen X instinctively learned how to physically repair and mend objects with their own two hands. When a bicycle chain invariably slipped off its gears, or the family's old cathode ray tube television began to flicker erratically, the initial thought was never to dial a repairman. Instead, they would methodically flip the bicycle upside down, accepting the inevitable grease smudges on their fingers, or patiently troubleshoot the TV, determined to fix it themselves. This persistent, direct engagement with mechanical problems fostered a powerful, intuitive understanding of how things worked. It instilled a fundamental belief that, equipped with enough perseverance, a sharp mind, and a trusty screwdriver, one could effectively decipher and master the tangible mechanics of the world around them. Gen X, who once navigated their own childhoods with a deep sense of self-reliance, now find themselves observing their children coming of age in an entirely different, meticulously curated existence. This new landscape is characterized by the constant hum of helicopter parenting, where every moment is meticulously supervised, every step guided, and every potential pitfall preemptively smoothed over. Social media acts as an ever-present, omniscient eye, documenting every fleeting success and minor stumble, capturing a public record of a life once lived in quiet anonymity. They conscientiously provide their offspring with an abundance of the attention and validation they themselves rarely received, striving to correct the perceived emotional deficits of their own upbringing. Yet a lingering unease often accompanies this generosity, a quiet fear that in shielding their children so thoroughly, they might inadvertently be rendering them too soft, too dependent, and ultimately, too visible. For the Gen X worldview, shaped by years of quiet observation and independent problem-solving, visibility was never a sign of strength, but rather a profound invitation to vulnerability. The profound truth emerges. Generation X may well be the last cohort to genuinely comprehend the profound gift of being truly alone with one's own meandering thoughts. They understood the oft uncomfortable, yet ultimately fertile ground of boredom, and the deep satisfaction of unraveling complex problems using only their wits, unassisted by instant digital answers. Not inherently superior to any other generation, they are simply distinct, having been uniquely forged in a specific, liminal historical epoch. This was a time when the familiar structures of the old world were irrevocably crumbling, while the nascent digital age had yet to fully solidify its form. They are, in essence, the bridge generation, unassuming conduits who perform essential, often thankless work, holding disparate worlds together, anticipating no special recognition or applause in return. And perhaps that very indifference to accolades, that quiet, steadfast dedication to function over fanfare, is the most quintessential Gen X characteristic of all. This enduring trait, this quiet strength and self-sufficiency, forged without the need for constant validation, truly encapsulates the Gen X spirit. If this deep dive into the unique psychology of Generation X has resonated with your own experiences, touching a nerve of recognition and understanding, then we sincerely ask for your engagement. Please consider subscribing to the channel to join our growing community and stay updated with future insights.
And for those who wish to actively champion these detailed explorations, supporting the intensive research and production behind them, we warmly invite you to become a channel member. Your invaluable commitment and belief in this content, accessed by hitting the join button, would be profoundly appreciated and enable us to continue bringing these narratives to light.